Okay, so it's a constructed language.
Yeah. I think I can't remember the name of the king who came up with it, but like he just fucking sat down. I can't say for sure, but I feel like this was around the time when they were having their war with Japan, or rather, like Japan was in the middle of like invading because they needed something to do with all those samurai that they were kind of had just disenfranchised by having peace.
Oh yeah. Peace. Classic monarchist mistake. But he got to just will a efficient language into existence. Am I hearing like the only upshot of monarchy right now?
I just wondering like how he had all that time while there was a war going on. I mean, like prime ministers and such, sure, certainly. But I need to look this up so that I do not end up coming off like a gigantic fucking moron. Korean alphabet, Hangul de. No,
I mean,
no,
coming off
just
as a
Hangul,
giant
right?
fucking moron is really an American tradition in many fields, mostly law enforcement. But that's me. That's me riding the current of the times again.
Yes, invented by King Sejong the Great in 1443. He's the guy from Civ 5.
Oh, the Great. That's how you know they were willing to torture local historians. Like, whenever I see the Great in a history textbook, I really just assume that his son was psychotic.
What I've been learning is that if someone gets to be called the Great, then their son is probably, is not actually called the Shitty, but usually deserves to be called as such.
Just they could be called the Inept.
The inept, or just the disappointing at the very least. Okay, so here's the thing. He was king, I think, at least a couple decades before that war. So I don't know what the fuck I was talking about just now.
Did you just admit an error in 2020? Because that's not the fucking rulebook we play by.
There's nothing else I could do. Yeah, no. At no point in this Wikipedia page is any mention made of the what would it even be called? Like there's a word like how like Sino refers to China, so like the Sino-Japanese War. I don't know what would you call probably not Korean Japanese. I don't know that war, the war that Hideyoshi started.
I think you would call that war historical foreshadowing.
Right? I was conflating, not complaining, but I was associating two events that happened 100 years apart. Korean scripts, Hangul, that happened in the 1400s, and the invasion of Korea by the Japanese, by the Tokugawa shogunate. I get not quite yet because it was Hideyoshi. That was the the late 1500s.
Man, it's really rough when geography just says, "You will never know peace."
It's like, so here's this giant fucking like imposing imperial power on one side, right? And here's this hungry fucking nation on the other side.
Just a
that just
maw
sees you
that
just
needs...
sticking out into the sea, just like ooh, like so many chicken legs.
So good luck.
It's like what? It's shaped like something that we should eat.
It's intuitive. Are you going to deny nature? Are you going to deny design this ergonomic? Few games manage to guide you along this efficiently. Let the mechanics tell a story.
I just remember that one time that you were talking about, that one fucking game of Civ 5 that you played where...
Oh, yeah. So what fucking happened here... I was playing Civilization 5, wonderful game, teaches you a lot about how things work in an incidental kind of way. And one time I was playing Japan. I had in my head I was going to go for like a culture victory or an economic victory. I don't know, maybe that's just the premise of Weeaboo Hell just blaring in the back of my brain. But you know what it fucking did? It spawned me on a resource-poor island near larger mainland powers. So I just said, okay, I guess we're doing this. And then I had the biggest fucking army in the game by the time gunpowder came out. It was a bad scene, is what I'm just...
No, it's happening.
It was happening so directly, and I'm pretty sure I needed to hold oil off of my main island to maintain my fucking standard of living. I guess what I'm saying is mankind learned to fear its own fucking deeds.
I'm trying to think if I ever ran into like a particularly historically appropriate game of Civ. I'm just remembering the really fucking memorable one where I was playing India and the Aztecs spawned on the other side of Korea, right? And like God fucking bless Korea for being my fucking buffer because they are the only reason that I survived. Just taking fucking everything that Montezuma could throw at them.
There's always a little smoke on the corner of the map.
I kept giving them soldiers. Like I kept like producing soldiers and just gifting the unit to him just like so that I could not have to fucking have jaguars all the way up my ass.
I learned everything I needed to know about the fucking CIA when I fucking... Another person was trying to just take over the city-state, and I just kept on sending it fucking soldiers.
That happened with me. The last big game that I played, like towards the beginning of the pandemic, where I was decided, okay, I need like a time sink, and so I started a new game of Civ. What the time sink ended up being Witcher 3, but in this case, before I got to Witcher 3, I played a game of Civ, and it was I think I was playing the Byzantines, right? And there was this island string full of a whole bunch of city states, right? And here's fucking Genghis Khan to my south. The heretofore very charming Genghis Khan, who has made nothing but overtures of peace to me, right? But this is Genghis Khan, right? So, and Civ 5, and like his whole thing is, conquer city-states, every single fucking one of them. It's like, it's what he's designed to do. But I need those things. My economy depends on them.
Oh boy.
So I was playing the fucking CIA game. And running fucking Black Ops.
What are you called? The Mujahideen? Sounds great. Here's a rocket launcher.
Right? What was happening was that I had one allied, the hell's it called, city-state on one part of the globe, right? And they were a militaristic city-state that gave me janissaries for whatever fucking reason. Now, I was not really going to war that often, so I really did not need these janissaries, but you know, the poor city of Hanoi, which was an island in this case, or in this world, absolutely needed soldiers. So that's what I kept doing. I just kept fucking sending janissaries to Hanoi, to like on the off chance that they can.
Were they confused that Byzantine exclusive units kept on popping up in fucking Hanoi?
They're Ottoman exclusive.
They're Ottoman exclusive. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that's like this thing that the game does is that sometimes it will just give you the
special guest
culturally
stars.
Unique culturally unique units, just as a little. I don't know. Like sometimes I'm playing like America, right? No, I'm not. America's a fucking boring Civ to play in that game. I'm playing like the Shoshone or whatever, and an allied.
What kind of boring asshole loads up a game like Civ 5 and plays his own country anyway? Like, who are you people? Why are you here?
I'd play them if they had an interesting mechanic, but it's just like, oh, you could buy tiles for cheap. You know, if you like buying tiles, do you like buying tiles?
I heard in the fucking Civ 6 DLC, America will have an exclusive unit called Military Police that can only fire on its own populace. It's like the Civ 4 slavery mechanic, you don't get any building energy from it. You could call it a legacy of slavery. Now, I'm gonna be that kind of guy. Okay, not to oversimplify a complex situation, but when you look at the nuances of the thing, bacon is delicious.
It's absolutely. Oh man, I was just making some quiche earlier today with bacon, and I was just thinking about like everything that we get from the presence of dead pigs.
Oh man, you get just the fucking
like we get Jello. You can make Jello out of that too, not just bacon, right? Like
spiders love it.
Little boy.
Spiders love it. It's some pig, you know. Truly, days of wonder, days of spirit, days of glory. Now, a place where every day is strange is the somewhat is Tower of God fairy tale-ish, fairy tale adjacent.
I would call it isekai adjacent, but I'm kind of getting ahead of myself just by saying so.
Oh yeah, like genre-wise, I'm talking more like the sort of presentation of the fucker. Like, is it
I straight up just new weird.
just new weird, just
New weird, just fucking
just
like,
licking Kelly Link's toes?
Yeah. I was thinking, what the fuck is his name? He wrote Annihilation. I was thinking about him.
Oh yeah, Jeff Vandermeer.
Jeff Vandermeer, there we go. Like Jeff Vandermeer, China Mieville, that sort of thing. It is that genre. I didn't end up loving it, so I wouldn't exactly favorably compare it to Jeff Vandermeer or China Mieville, but like it is new weird.
Oh man, I used to date someone like really fixated on the weird stuff, and I think I had really healed, and I went back like, oh shit, Jeff Vandermeer is great. I just hate this person.
I'm working through that sort of bias that I built up, like, against not H.P. Lovecraft in particular, because fuck him, but just Lovecraftian horror in general, and just how fucking tired I was of it by the time I was fucking 18 for reasons you already know, and I'm like, I'm actually going to leave those reasons mysterious for our viewers, listeners, whatever.
The mysterious backstory of Weeaboo Hell.
But I was 18 and fucking sick of that shit then, and I'm 27 and, like, still working through being sick of that shit now. And here's the thing, is that the vibe I'm getting is that it's getting a little bit played out in just, in pop culture or media today.
You are getting over not liking that shit as soon as it's basically done, so congratulations, you are no longer allergic to parachute pants.
It's life
I
is
think the
full
fucking
of such
video
ironies.
games, out of all things, might have fucking killed it, because if you ever want to just half-ass an adventure game and just shovel it onto Steam, a real
Tentacles.
a real just thin veneer of old
The dark unknown of
I've read 3 things by H.P. Lovecraft.
It is brilliant horror that we have made.
One was At the Mountain of Madness, which was a fun, sort of like slow-paced horror story as rendered by a man who forgot how adjectives work. This all counts as Tower of God discussion because it's all new weird, so I'm counting this as Tower of God discussion.
Yeah.
The second story was okay formally, but I would describe the underlying horror as the time the black walked down the street. And then there's his masterpiece, and I don't know, content warning for racial slurs, I guess. I don't know. Is that the line? Is that our line on Weeaboo Hell? Just hard N-bombs? But he wrote a story / maybe a prose poem called On the Creation of Niggers.
Right. Yep. I'm very familiar with it.
So I will say that Tower of God is not the most ill-conceived thing in the lineage of weird.
No, definitely not. I'm also pretty sure that what's his name? That SIU knows that non-Euclidean geometry just means stuff with curves. Because I can guarantee you there is at least one, classic horror writer from around the turn of the century into the 20s who did not understand what that meant. All right, so Tower of God, right?
Yeah, Tower of God is change happening before our eyes, which is interesting. I don't know. It's nice to see a change that isn't the widening of the gyre. And what this little change is, we all saw the sort of shift into adapting visual novels instead of only adapting manga that anime went through. Mm-hmm. And I guess this is sort of a second order thing, though I guess closer to the comic form in practice, which is we have people adapting webtoons, which are
well, instead of going right to left, you go from up to down. That's the that is the main difference in format between manga and webtoons, so far as I am aware.
Yeah, and it turns out there are actually multiple webtoon services. It's just that one had I don't know, it's like a fucking Xerox. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, like, it is called webtoon, and then the format got big, and this was the thing that was called Webtoon when Webtoons got big, and thus.
And I know it's an interesting thing. There's obviously, like every other format, you have your spread of content. I would say that their version of capes dominating the medium is rom-coms.
Near as I can tell, yes. Although I think I should just put a disclaimer. I don't into Webtoon too much. Like, I will read manga. I will even read light novels. I feel qualified to talk about both of those on top of anime. I have not ever really checked out Webtoons.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we're not positioning ourselves as fucking Webtoon experts, but one of the reasons that everyone's interested in this fucking thing is that it's adapted from a Webtoon.
Webtoon, yeah.
Good. So congratulations to Mr. SIU, his nom de plume, or are those just his real initials? I don't fucking know. Whatever.
No, it stands for Slave in Utero.
Amusing.
It's a handle, you know.
That is a sense of humor that does not translate too strongly to this work. Not to say it's humorless, I'm just saying his sense of humor is kind of dumb.
Yeah, so, kind of right off the bat, didn't love this. I think it was well-directed, certainly.
Didn't love this. I didn't hate this. It was more voidish for me.
Yeah, it's, I almost am disappointed in how I felt about this, right? Because if I hated it, right, I'd have all sorts of bants. As it stands, I got a few things to say about it, just reasons for why I was pretty lukewarm on it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to start with an element that this has that annoys the piss out of me.
Okay.
That is not unique to it, which is an isekai mechanic, right? Which is why I kind of, maybe unfairly, kind of associate this with isekai, even though it, like, is it or isn't it? I don't think so. I don't, like, technically, not really.
It's not... If I had a gun to my head and I was filing stuff in the library, I would not put it next to these guys. This is a fantasy new weird kind of romp that is very tropey, and that's why it feels that way. Just because isekai stuff is basically a Frankenstein of cliches.
Well, it's not that.
I'm saying that
it's something
that.
Really specific for me.
Okay.
Which is the fact that. Okay, so this is a fucking thing with me that maybe I'm the only person that this pisses off, right? Maybe I'm just insane. Whenever I see non-diegetic video game elements introduced into a show as a diegetic component of that show, I fucking lose my shit just a little bit. It takes me right the fuck out of whatever I am watching. And it happened really, really soon into the first episode of Tower of God when this, I think her name is Yuri, Princess Yuri or whatever, pulls out a fucking video game inventory of swords. And I'm just like, God fucking damn it. I was trying to give this thing a chance.
I wasn't even in the room and I could fucking feel your temperature going up. It was an interesting moment.
And I could go into why, I guess. It's just like...
It's distancing in a way that doesn't serve the thing.
Non-diegetic video game elements are... They're there and they only work because it's an interactive medium, right? And you can get away with breaks from reality because they have to fucking be there because it's a fucking game. Mm-hmm. But here we are with a show that's not interactive and they don't have to be there.
I would compare it to page numbers in the corner of a movie screen. Like just every frame has a number. It would get pretty high by the end, but you read me.
At worst, I'd think it was kind of pretentious. Or at best, I'd think it was kind of pretentious. Just like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing here. You really crafted a real story here, haven't you? Spun me a tale.
Oh, yeah.
So that's something kind of a little bit specific to begin with, but I just kind of wanted to get it off my chest before we get into the real meat of this.
Fair enough. By the way, I'm just going to zoom out for a second. Tower of God premise, guy is, Anna simping on... fucking, is she a princess, rich girl, whatever. She's pretty and she helped him and taught him shit. So he goes into the Tower of God, which is a series of sort of loosely defined levels and challenges where each level has its own fucking gimmick. And if you get to the top, you can become the Shaman King or assemble the fucking Dragon Balls or what have you.
Hokage, number one hero, whatever Ichigo Kurosaki was after.
So
I don't think he was actually after anything.
To this thing's structural benefit, you don't really have to question where we're headed with this one. He has, clear goals, a clear motivation of the boot.
Let's lay out the setting here just a little bit more, and then I want to talk about this kid Bam. His name is Bam. I want to talk about his motivations a little bit and why they kind of just don't fucking work for me.
All right, sure.
Yeah, so we're in this tower. You could think of it as a tower. I think it's just, a series of little worlds a la a video game. Again, just cannot fucking into it. And they're filled with just, character designs of
yeah, it's a grab bag of heavily sort of genre characters.
Yeah, just like stuff that could be from one work of genre fiction or another. Like most of them kind of fantasy-esque, I guess.
Yeah, all the group character shots look like a fucking superhero crossover event would be my description.
That's not inaccurate to say, yeah. I wanted to find all of it more interesting than I did. And I've been trying to diagnose why I did not find it as interesting as I kind of wanted to. Do you have any thoughts about that?
When I started the show, I was sort of reeled in from the start because it has a lot of visual signs of doing something different. Like the color palette is very subdued and it gives it a different look. The line work does something that I'm not technically capable of describing, but once again, it gives a different look. So, I don't know, everything is very visually like arranged well, and then there's just nothing really happening underneath. So I almost feel like there's something it's not living up to. It's like a flashy car of a shitty engine.
The way that I would describe it is that it is lacking a human element. It's got like a whole bunch of, I don't know, it's got all of this fucking minutia attached to it, right? And I'm sure that you go far enough into the webtoon and everything has an explanation, right? And I admit, like, I kind of spoiled myself a little bit, just like went to various character pages in various places, looked at people and things and like their place and all of this, and it's like you've got all these fucking categories that and subcategories that stuff falls into, and it feels very much like someone's Toy House page. As I was watching it, I was just thinking that there's really just no fucking that I could see. It just seemed to lack much heart.
I think heart is a very intuitive way of getting at the fact that there isn't a very like individualistic spark to all this stuff. I see a dramatic sequence, and the characters are framed in a way that I know the emotion they are trying to evoke, and they're not doing it in an incompetent way, and it's not like fucking rushed or anything.
Yeah, like I was saying, this is well directed.
And I don't know, maybe I just don't like Paprika or something, but I guess I just don't have... Nothing makes it individual, and so I don't get pulled into the thing. I just feel like it's happening in front of me.
Yeah, I get that.
It's almost like a music video show, like when music videos became bigger than the fucking rock songs themselves. And then everyone woke up one day and said, Poison fucking sucks! Which isn't to say everything about the show sucks, no. It's a Poison music video.
I have more of like just one scene that I'm kind of wanting to point to here, which is, I think, towards the end of the first episode, right? This Bam kid, right? He's put through this challenge, and he ends up trying to chip away at this dome or something on the ground, with a sword, while there's, this big serpent kind of trying to eat him or something.
Oh yes, very spirited, very hero.
And he's really fucking going at this thing, just shouting something, I don't know, like, let's say he's shouting Tatake, because that's clearly what this scene is trying to evoke.
Yeah, he's shouting something to the effect of break, and...
Tatake.
We're supposed to be sort of learning about his willpower as a figure.
And I am just fucking left cold, because, like, the pathos just is not there.
It's just not there. Also, the series isn't too committed to willpower as the thing that sets him apart, or any particular given thing as a thing that sets him apart.
Yeah, I don't like, the series kind of seems to be insisting that he's special in some way, but I just don't get the sense that he is. And again, I am sure that there is some diegetic reason, 500 chapters in, that we learn that he is special, right? Mm-hmm. But there is a difference between, him being special because of, like, such and such plot elements that say so, and him feeling special. Nothing feels too particularly extraordinary about him. And, maybe I'm asking too much, or I'm asking for my expectations are, not where they should be, but I kind of don't care about this kid.
I think the dissonance that's sort of chipping away at your head here. This is a thing that happens in a lot of anime, a lot of action media in general, in that a lot of things want to have their cake and eat it too in terms of like three kinds of appeal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your chosen ones, your underdogs, and your everymen. And I think the thing that a lot of people need to start fucking realizing is that these are three entirely different ways of engaging with your background. Like, they're three entirely different relationships with the world, and when you try to grab at all these at once, you just sort of end up with a weird slurry of nothing.
I would agree in part, I think.
Take, for example, in Tower of God here in particular.
Okay.
So we come in. He's the underdog. He is a normal guy coming into the Doom Tower of Fate, full of monsters and shit. He barely understands what's going on, but he wants to get that boot. So he steps into the arena. Mm-hmm. Immediately, this princess comes in, gives him the Infinity +1 sword of kicking the shit out of everything that moves.
And then max on him a little.
So he's also hot. But now you're trying to fucking drift race between fucking underdog and, I don't know, Palladius, hero of the realm. And then his special willpower is immediately solve the undeclared puzzle of the... That's a whole other thing of this show, by the way. Maybe that's a separate show. I don't know if you want to get to that yet.
Oh, yes, in just 1 second. Okay. Because we've just arrived at this issue that I have with this show, which is his motivation, right? In that, okay, so perhaps we're being facetious in saying that he's chasing the boot. I don't know. I don't actually know where the story goes in that regard. But the thing is that his sole motivation is that he wants to find this girl. Because she is his only friend, because he is amnesiac and she is literally the only person he, actually knows, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when she disappears, he wants to find her. That's fine. The problem is that just seems like a way better setup for a mystery rather than a kind of like video game action adventure. And like, I'm sure that there are mysterious elements or whatever that you can point to, but the show is just not playing out as such, right? The show is not us uncovering new information. This show is more just okay, here's all this new information because you're in this now, right? And you're just gonna have to fucking take it as it comes. And so his motivation just does not seem like the correct one for this story in particular, if that makes sense.
I think that does make sense, like, especially because I think we're underselling, based on all these other fucking elements, how action-driven this program is so far.
Yeah, it's, and it, not necessarily, like, fighty action, although there is no shortage of that, but also action is in, like, they're playing games, right? It's action as then it's very active, as in there's not, like, a whole lot of...
Yeah, not a lot of contemplating your fucking navel in this one.
Except when they do, and I just... It goes in one ear and out the other.
It's not its strongest fucking element, yeah.
There are entire paragraphs of dialogue in that show where people just kind of wax poetic about something. I couldn't fucking tell you what, and it's like, okay, dude. Whatever helps you get to sleep at night.
But yeah, when it comes to what people contemplate their navels about in the midst of these battle or pseudo-battle scenarios, I think they're either convinced this is a little smarter than it is, or are willing to try to just play it off to make ends meet. Maybe it's not fair. It's not pretentious. It's not really a pretentious show, but shit is basically just... It happens in a way that it may not be arbitrary. It can be perfectly structured, right? Like, it could be a perfectly natural flow for a fight, but the information is put in exactly as it matters, and it just makes it feel arbitrary. When he gets eaten and does the old fucking jabu jabu the whale, cut your way out of the fucking thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is just immediately said as soon as he does that this was the only way for the trial, this is the way the trial is designed. It is actually super smart to jump into the mouth of this monster. Stabbing its exterior would have been pointless.
Yeah, they're cheating a little bit, aren't they?
Yeah, and that's only an example. It's a small one, but they just sort of apply that method throughout all of their levels of their video game.
You've got all these, I guess you could call them puzzles, right? That, anyone watching the show could not possibly fucking solve because the information needed to solve these puzzles is hidden from us, right? So that when someone does solve the puzzle, it's like, well, okay, that's very impressive, I suppose.
In fact, I need to move away from the Village of Good Faith for a second to just sort of kick the ribs of one segment.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fucking Trial 3. Which is one of the... I shouldn't say it a few times because we watch shit like, I don't know, MILF Isekai.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of the few times I have audibly said my ass in recent memory.
Which one was Trial 3?
Trial
was that
3
like
in
the
this
one
show,
with like
the setup was pretty simple.
The doors or whatever?
Your battle team, who you have grown to love and care for as brothers at this point, you can go with it, have 10 minutes to figure out which one of these, I don't know, 8, 12, whatever. There are a bunch of magic glowing doors. You have to figure out which one to go through. There are no other clues. The answer is to just open one in 5 minutes, anyone who chooses right, but just to prove that you have the biggest balls of them all by playing Charge and Charles and running ahead. And I do not know what fucking human logic chain between the information they gave you and what happens is meant to lead, I don't know, erstwhile champions to this conclusion. I don't know, maybe this is why I'm not a destined hero. Maybe this is the hole in my character. That's why, like, if Earth depends on me having that bit of courage without even, like, thinking it through, like, not even courage, just reckless, random abandon to say, like, well, we've got to open one of these fucking doors. We're boned. We're fucked. The Earth will be dusted because I'm not wired that way. That's not a fucking Homo sapien logic chain to me. This has been cinema sins. This will be my only cinema sin.
Okay. I mean, like, to sort of build on like this and the sort of, quote unquote mysteries that, Tower of God sort of introduces, like, and I was saying that, Bam's motivations would suit a mystery great. And this, at least on the surface, does feature mystery as an element, but there's nothing mysterious about the mysteries. It's just like, it just introduces these elements like so obviously and so arbitrarily that I'm never really left with questions. I'm just thinking like, okay, I guess. And to the point where I felt like the show was fucking gaslighting me. Like, every time I want to say, okay, so this element is frustratingly arbitrary, I feel like this show is just wanting to stick its tongue out at me, declare that I don't get it and I'm not being patient enough, and then accusing me of arguing in bad faith. Like, I swear to God, that was the vibe I was getting from this show literally the entire time I'm watching it. And, like, I don't know, maybe I don't get it. Maybe I am a fucking moron. That could very well be. But I don't know, maybe I'm not. Maybe everything in this did just feel kind of fucking arbitrary and like it was just put there in a way, like in such a way that I'm supposed to think that it's fucking brilliant, and I just like, I don't know. I don't care. It's made mundane in such a way that I don't care. And like not in the magical realism sense of, the magical made
not
mundane,
in a lived in
like,
way, in a it's just things happening at UA. Ironically, because it has that little flaw, I think it kind of undermines the sort of new, weird schizo tapestry world they go for.
Well, yeah, because New Weird does actually seek to, kind of freak you out a little bit, and, magical realism, right? Yet, in universe, what is happening is mundane, but to the reader, it is still, magical.
Yeah.
So... But like the problem is that these just elements that they're just kind of there and no one in universe is reacting to them. Yes, but they are just made so amazingly flat by how everything is presented that I'm not really reacting to them either.
It's very strange to me because when I get something pitched to me as a paradigm shifter, I kind of expect the flavor to be really strong. Not necessarily in a good or bad way, but say your SAO changes things and that thing, to my palate, sucks really aggressively. Or you have, I don't know, some medium defining shit like, I don't know, Kimba the White Lion or some nonsense, right?
Code Geass, slightly more recent, something
Yeah,
like that.
that had an intense flavor. So it is fascinating to me that something that represents such a business paradigm shift is just porridge anime-wise. And the ideas are from, like, a different ecosystem in theory, right? I mean, it's a globalism,
It should feel
whatever.
fresher than it does.
Yeah, it definitely should feel fresher than it does. I think that is.
I'm watching an outside perspective here, and there's just not that much about it that's that outside.
Like, I am watching something published on an independent online platform from a different country than anime usually draws from. Then again, maybe that's why this is the first thing adapted from fucking Webtoon. Maybe that's it. It's just kind of safe.
It's interesting that Webtoon caught on when they were trying to get manhwa to catch on, and it just fucking wouldn't. But like, this is what did.
Oh yeah, the only manhwa I ever saw in a fucking Barnes and Noble was Ragnarok, which is also very familiar, and thus, yeah. Well, we learned something on market forces today, kids.
I am. I'm not sure that I have that much more to say about Tower of God, which is I know that's gonna sound disappointing because there's so much in it, but like
it is full of content.
There's a whole lot in it, but there's I don't know. When you serve yourself rice, there's a whole lot of grains.
Yeah, I could make jabs at individual characters, like they are convinced you will find large fight man to. In the same way that certain female characters feel cloyingly engineered to be your waifu, he feels cloyingly engineered to, like, I don't know, have that fucking Erdnot Rex if you're like, yeah, he's your fight bro, you know what I'm saying? Dudes rock 2020.
There was,
and
there were one or two little moments where you could just tell that there was a laugh here, please, and I'm just sort of awkwardly, like, kind of looking at imaginary, audience members next to me to see if they're laughing, and I don't know. Maybe it's just not my sense of humor or whatever, but everything fell off about the timing every time that there was a gag in this.
So yeah, this one, not quite made for me. And the next one is, in terms of marketing demographics, explicitly not made for me.
Yeah, it's, we got a fucking actual isekai here.
Yeah, everyone, we're back to the isekai tree. I'm gonna bang that drum until I'm dead. And the specific isekai is a sort of... Is it Flavor Month if it's a whole seat? Whatever. My next life as a villainess, semicolon.
All routes lead to doom.
All routes lead to doom, exclamation point.
Oh boy, it's an excited one.
It is an excited one, and... I don't know, maybe this... I guess this is benefiting from, like, my genre tyranny of low expectations.
Here's what I'd like to lay out.
Mm-hmm.
Premise. It's an isekai, except it's a dating sim where the protagonist is a woman and all of her suitors are males. It's like kind of, like gender flip from like the standard sort of dating sim. Right?
If you got a whole reverse harem thing
That's
going.
it. That's it. You're fucking caught up. It's vaguely Baroque in its aesthetic, right? So back in the 90s, right? There was this online
one
film
element.
review site.
That's theoretically involved is all routes lead to doom. So in theory, she is this character that always bites it in this game, or gets exiled in one route. I would like to point out, completely sinking some of the fucking tension there for you guys. Oh, you're just gonna move to a big house in the country then?
I think it's sort of implied that like, no, you're exiled to fucking St. Helena, but
Fair.
Still. So those are the stakes, right? And there was, like I said, there's this one online film review site from the 90s called Mr. Cranky. I don't know if you remember it, Dennard.
I did not encounter this one.
It was premised upon the assertion that all films suck, and this is a tiresome stick in the year of our Lord 2020 when like fucking Cinema Sins gets fucking like 6 million views within the first 30 minutes of every fucking video dropping. Whatever, I'm not mad. But this was the 90s. It wasn't old yet. The highest rating that Mr. Cranky would give a film was almost tolerable, which is what I'm giving this. There was nothing offensively terrible about my next life as a villainess, and it didn't have like that kind of fuck you, you'll buy it sort of attitude that most isekai has. And like, to its credit, like what I was talking about earlier, the diegetic inclusion of like non-diegetic video game elements, it keeps that to a minimum.
The credit I'm gonna give this fucker, right? is that I was expecting it to, just from the presentation, from the marketing, from the title, plunge into the depths of isekai hell. And instead, I found myself in rom-com purgatory.
Yeah, it's that once you get past all the sins that it's not committing, it's mildly interesting, like, which is fine, I guess, if like that's what you're into. But here's the part where I say that the most useful critics are the ones who are consistent in their opinions, because you always know where you stand with them.
Is this the
right?
donkey principle?
Yeah, this is sort of the donkey principle. Like, I very much agree with what he was saying here. Like, my opinion is that isekai is really fucking boring. And you can think that that's an arbitrary line to draw, or that I'm full of shit, and that's fine. But since you know where I stand on this, it provides you very important context for everything that I say. So when I say that this is almost terrible, for those of you out there who love isekai and think it's a great genre, then you could kind of just take that to mean that this is a fucking 10 out of 10 isekai.
Oh yeah, I'm
like,
sorry.
I
If
don't
you
know,
like isekai, any isekai, I'm pretty sure this show will blow your dick off.
Yeah, you'll probably think it's like the fucking tits. I don't, but you probably will. So you know what? Just fucking sink your teeth in, because at the end of the day, you're having more fun
Your
than
jaws
I am,
will
right?
drop
So you win.
and say, "I'm used to empowerment fantasies where you sort of wink at things and they explode, but in this world, she's doomed." And this will be your Watchmen.
Right, just the fucking genre of isekai reacting to itself.
Yeah, dude, it's
Good
gone
fucking lord.
self-aware. We're gonna put this one down with a shovel.
So just because I haven't been petty in the last 5 minutes, same face all over the place in this show. There's in the third episode, right? The first couple of episodes, and it's interesting that they do this, right? They kind of introduce the characters as kids before, like zooming them ahead to when they're 15.
Oh yeah, there's this little youth adventure.
The cast that you'd met, as kids, right, are all reintroduced en masse, right, as 15-year-olds, and the shot just kind of pans across.
They're like
them,
the fucking
right?
Borg.
And every single male character has the exact same fucking face. I swear to God.
It's incredible. I keep expecting fucking Locutus to stomp in.
They made such a goddamn mistake lining all of those characters up next to one another. I might not have noticed otherwise, because they all have fun haircuts.
Yeah,
to the show's credit, I guess they've got fun haircuts.
The relationship to the Emperor and his very similar clothing.
So now that I'm done being petty, like compliment sandwich.
So yeah, this show aspires to archness, which has an interesting effect.
What do you mean when you say archness?
When I say archness, I mean the way that a show like, say, Archer or fucking Excel Saga is trying to play around with the idea of being in a genre, right?
Okay.
And just throw those elements around.
Oh, so archness in this context means archerness?
No, it doesn't mean archerness. It means just... I just mean that it kind of wants to have a winking eye open the entire time.
Maybe this is just a term that exists and I just have never fucking heard it before.
Totally fine. But yeah, the point is that there's a lot of like small parody riffs going at a given point.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And there are basically two wavelengths of these. They're the ones that just barely exist because they're very surface level observations of isekai, which is almost boring because look at the fucking psychological underpinnings of this genre. Eventually someone will make a lot of money with just a deconstruction of a man who is this thing that wants to own everyone else around him. One will be good.
I'm here for it.
One will be good.
It'll be the last one.
It will be the last. It'll be a good version of like one of those fucking what if Superman bad stories. Whatever. Not our point here. Not our fucking thesis. I guess where the show survives is that there are these, like, the fucking flashes upwards on an EKG machine. There are these little hints of idea. Like I wrote down just one of her fucking husbandos can't hold a fucking conversation because he's a strong silent type.
Oh, I love that. And she's always having like these internal monologues where she's just wishing that he would fucking talk about something because it's awkward. And that's cute.
Yeah, that has charm, and
credit where it's due.
Charm is worth a lot of weight in a romantic comedy because it's pretty much only charm, conflict, and a series of a man holding a boombox above his head.
These moments were frequent enough where I would call this show like mildly funny, I suppose. But the problem is
Very
that
Nicktoons
they
at
happen
5
in
p.m.
between. Yeah, they happen in between these pretty long sequences of
Nothing.
not nothing, but just people. I feel like I'm being unfair when I say this, but like it's the sort of same problem that I had with Ouran High School Host Club, which is a show that I like, but the issue that I had with it was the whole like in this scene people are in a room talking, and in the next scene people are in a room talking, and I know that this show does more than just that, but it does a lot of just that, and so I did find it somewhat hard to pay attention at times. That being said, it could also be that I was instinctively reaching for my phone to like just get my hands on some more horrible fucking news, because this week has been the world's the country's
Sam,
having a normal
stop touching
one.
your fucking phone, because something happens every time you touch your phone, and if you touch your fucking phone one more time, a flying saucer is going to land over the fucking White House and declare its allegiance to the White House, and then we'll be fucked.
Yeah, that's I'd like for that not to happen.
Yeah, and by the way, if bacon's delicious, oranges are delicious and nutritious.
I don't know that this orange would be that nutritious. I feel it'd be mostly gristle.
Yeah, you don't want gristle in your fruit, it really throws off the texture.
It doesn't really... Fruit should not be savory.
You bring up an interesting question. Like, are you giving something a fair review if you don't find its basic mode of entertainment or delivery engaging? Like, if you're someone who just does not dig violence, you are a lifelong passive if you flinch at a speck of blood, how well can you review Bloodsport? That's a fun question, because I think on some level, part of me does tune out on the very Tea Party scenes in this, and I don't mean of the Boston variety.
Oh, there are plenty of them. Like, there are literal tea parties. I think at least 2 of them show up in 3 episodes.
So, I don't know, if you are halfway through your draft of hate mail on me not getting it and saying, this isn't made for you, this is made for Tea Party artisans, maybe you have a point. Maybe you have the shadow of a point. I would argue, though, that I have read such a trench and variety of people, from my fucking MFA purgatory to fucking Weeaboo Hell here to all kinds of shit, that while something might not be in my default mode, I can at least see the appeal, or if something is being done well or in a fresh way. And I can feel this sort of paddling in the wave pool of its predecessors.
Keep going.
Ultimately, the basic unit of a scene is 2 people talking. So I think when we say that every scene just feels like people talking, what it comes down to is they are not saying anything that pulls me in, or I haven't heard before, or is particularly funny. Like, plenty of action movies you could say are just 2 people punching. Like, The Raid is just some people punching, but they're punching in ways.
Oh man, is it ever some people punching?
Yeah.
It's a good point. It actually sort of ties this back to what we were saying about Tower of God, where like the elements are there certainly, but none of them are too particularly engaging is the issue. And again, I'm willing to accept some responsibility, right, for not finding a whole lot of this engaging. Like I said, I don't find isekai that interesting. I think it is, in fact, a very trash genre. You all know this.
I would call it the garbage truck accruing more trash as it goes through its night.
I am doing my best to try and remove that from myself when I look at this, right? And like I said, this gets a whole lot of props for, kind of breaking with the formula just a little bit. Not a ton. By the end of the 3rd episode, okay, so here's the thing. In the first couple of episodes, the conceit is that, she's going to end up being, this villainous and, people hate her. And she's like kind of an underdog when that never fucking happens in isekai. Yeah, ReZero kinda, but not a lot. So like she's meant to be this underdog who's probably gonna.
Oh man, ReZero. I have never seen so many people enjoy something more than I do. Like, not since the fucking Macarena. When I was yay high.
It happened to me just this last winter with the Witcher TV show. I do not understand why people found that as engaging as they did, but
I think they just wish that Game of Thrones was still on, and
was still good. Like, honest to God, I think I like season 8 of Game of Thrones more than I like season 1 of the fucking Netflix Witcher, because fucking it just did not fucking add up for me, man. And I think I enjoyed the ha 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 fuck you energy of Game of Thrones season 8, but this, I don't know, it was just fucking awkward. I felt embarrassed for everyone on screen. But right, anime podcast, right.
I think my point here is that ultimately my review of this show is that it is a show that exists. It is not nearly as bad as it could have been.
It's bread-flavored bread.
It is, in fact, bread-flavored bread. And there's...
Oh, shit. I remember what I was fucking building towards, right? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I remember what the fucking point I was trying to make it. Is that, you spend these first 2 episodes, trying to convince me that it's not just another isekai with, OP protagonist who everyone wants to fuck, just coasting the fuck through, right? And then by the end of the time skip, right, in episode 3, it's pretty clear, and I went and read ahead just a little bit on my own, Dennard. I'm sorry.
I'll forgive you.
She is the OP protagonist that everyone wants to fuck.
Woo!
So, like, thanks for giving us those 2 episodes, I guess, where, it was at all in question, right? But, and this whole fucking, maybe I'm not being entirely fair because there's this whole, issue of agency in this show where, we're not entirely sure, and it's kind of like built into the narrative. This isn't like a flaw or whatever. This is just a thing that they're trying to
struggling
build
against
into the
fate
series,
and
right?
what have you.
Yeah, we're not really sure, how much, our heroine is actually capable of altering the course of events going forward, because like she knows how things play out in this game that she is in, right? And we're not sure if like it's despite her best efforts to change things, or I don't know. So maybe it's true that I'm not being fair, and that this continues to be an element in this show, and that like that is like objectively like a pretty decent source of dramatic tension there. But I don't know, just her being a standard isekai protagonist by the end of the 3rd episode, just sort of whatever fucking points I kind of wanted to give this, half credit.
Yeah,
none of them, but half
credit. It
credit.
really stumbles off the balance beam in the line between like gentle satire and just doing the thing. Ultimately, your fucking area of entertainment here is which one of these guys is she going to doink?
Probably not her brother, because do I even have to say it?
Welcome to Weeaboo Hell's favorite game show. Don't fuck your sister.
Sister.
Don't fuck your sister. That's our lesson for you guys, kids. By the way, they described one of these guys as a frivolous playboy. Were we ever frivolous playboys in our youth, Sam?
Me? No.
The fuck? What, did you just call me a son of a bitch? I swear to God, you waste 1 5-year streak drinking and carousing, and suddenly you don't have values. Well, now I have the most important values of all. The ability to sit down for hours on end in Audacity, editing myself talking about anime. This, my friends...
And in the end...
Isn't that what you need? Anyway, my friends, this has been Weeaboo Hell.
Wasn't the real Wasn't the real Tower of God the editing that we did along the way?
Wasn't the real Tower of God the weird engine sounds I'm going to take out of this episode?
It's Weeaboo Hell.
Weeaboo Hell. Also, we have our website, weeaboohell.com, or you can go to seemoreevil.com. And thank you for listening. I deeply appreciate all of you. Fuck 12.
Fuck 12.
Wasn't the real Tower of God the weird engine sounds I'm going to take out of this episode?
Oh, what's going on in your side of the neighborhood?
Oh, there are no engine sounds. I just made that up. They won't hear any.
Okay, yeah, you can edit out me calling your bluff just now.